God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy.
Making a 3D game with AI has been a lot of fun. After finishing my second game, Primus, I figured it was time to branch out into making 3D games and trying to figure out how I can get AI to help me do that. And in this case, for me, it was making a game based off what I will call a silly idea. The game is called She'll Be Home Soon. The idea is that you play as a husband, where you get a call from your wife saying that she'll be home soon. However, the house is a mess. The laundry isn't done, the dishes aren't done, the beds aren't made, etc. And you have a very big task list to work on before she arrives. Things start fine at the beginning, but over time, more and more tasks appear, the wife calls to remind you of certain things, and the house starts to cause more problems than you feel like it should. And it can get to a point where eventually, when the wife is almost about to get home, as a desperation act, you can start doing things such as blocking the door with a chair to keep her out while you continue working on tasks, because the end of the game really is eventually she will come in, but you want to make sure that when she does arrive in, the house is in a good enough state. So I opened up a Unity 3D project and got to work. To start things off, I figured I wanted to make the house, because my idea for this first 3D project is I keep the scope fairly small and contain it to pretty much just the house. The question was how to do that. Now, I had heard about things like Blender and people using that, but it was the question about if there were any AI that could help me build that. And actually, to my surprise, I could link up Cursor to Blender and basically get it to build stuff in Blender, and I can literally watch that go and happen. So I went and did that. I went and did that by giving it a very big prompt. I'd sort of described the sort of thing I wanted. I gave it a bit of a blueprint image from ChatGPT, and what it made was pretty cool. Nothing crazy, of course, but overall it looked pretty good. Then it was a matter of making the props and the objects for the house, in which I then ran a separate project and basically got it to do a similar thing. These turned out okay, and I was able to basically put this into my Unity project and get the AI to link up all of the events in terms of things like opening doors, shutting doors, interacting with certain task objects, etc. This was fine, and this worked. However, I came to find that a lot of these props were very basic. Like, some literally made up of like 2 cubes, so very, very blocky, and didn't really have the quality I was looking for. But again, what did I expect? So I then decided to rework on the house again. This time, I was giving it far more specific prompts, where I was really just focusing on just having so much more detail. I gave it a different blueprint because the original house felt pretty empty, and what came about with it was very, very good, and I'm pretty happy with it. What I then decided to do is, instead of getting to make the props separately and then getting AI to just put them in the relevant rooms, I actually went room by room inside that Blender project, giving basically the AI prompts for each room to basically build out all the objects in there. For the kitchen, make sure I have the oven, the counters, the cutlery, etc. And going room by room. Sometimes I would go back to rooms and basically take a screenshot, give it to ChatGPT and say, look, I want to refine these things. Can you give me a prompt? And it would give me that, and I go back and forth. And what we now have is significantly better than what we had before. There's still work to be done, of course, but given that I'm about 2 weeks into the project, I think what we have at the moment is something that we can work with. So that's really important. Then we move on to the task system. So at the moment, the idea is that the player will have a series of tasks to start with, and over time the tasks will build up, whether that's from the wife calling to remind you something, or whether that's the house causing issues. One of the core tasks is around the dog. The idea is that there will be a dog in play, and you will need to basically adjust how you do things with the dog. For example, eventually the dog will want to go outside, where you'll need to open the back door. If you don't let him outside in time, he's going to cause havoc in the house, adding to the task that you have. When he goes outside, that's fine. But eventually he'll want to come back inside. And when you let him inside, he's going to be very dirty from being outside, causing the dog to track loads of dirty footprints through the house. So ideally, you're going to want to pick him up, put him in a bath or something, and so on. But that will be a continuous loop, and you'll need to obviously adjust between when you're going to let him out, when you're going to let him back in, and how you sort of put that around tasks. Then you have the wife.
You better not be hiding a woman!
At the moment, the wife is more of a external pressure. Although I have made a wife model at the moment, that is not going to be yet in the game at the moment. The wife more so comes from pressure from her cooling and the sounds of her being outside when the time is up. Speaking of which, when the time gets closer to being up, if you have not yet completed the task, you can barricade the door with a chair. This is a little bit of a funny thing in my mind, but the idea that when you do that and time runs out, you hear knocking at the door and you hear the wife from the other side of the door, and eventually the timer changes to the wife's patience meter. Then from there, you basically are in a bit of a tense situation where you need to get as many tasks done as possible before the wife loses patience and kicks down the door. A bit excessive, but it's a pretty fun concept in my mind. As for the end game and result, the idea at the moment is that you will get a overall rating based on how you performed. Were you the perfect husband and did you complete all of the tasks, or did you actually do a terrible job and, the wife is very, angry? I also played around with making music for the game in terms of different situations and making music when time starts ticking down. I used 11 labs to make the wife sound effects, and I think they're pretty good, from things such as, are you cheating on me sort of stuff, as the patience level sort of drops and the wife gets angrier and angrier. Things that I would like to do moving forward is trying to turn it into more of a horror scene where over time the house starts to get a bit, I don't know, more morbid. The TV turns on and starts playing some I'll Be Home Soon, creepy music. Maybe the wife cuts off the power, like in an attempt to get in, like those sort of things. But the idea is that eventually you do want to let her in. You just don't want to let her in and see the mess in the house. Now, moving forward, I might have different stages where eventually when she does get in the house, perhaps you need to hide things from her and make sure she doesn't spot certain things. But that's still very much at the moment. In terms of when we're going to get a demo out for the game, the Steam Next Fest, I believe, is starting October the 19th. So pretty much I'll have a demo probably by then. So I've got about just under 2 months to work away at that, which should be fine, but a lot to sort of work on. But yeah, again, any sort of feedback be very much appreciated. But yeah, if you do enjoy this, make sure to follow along, and I'll catch you soon.